Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the RepPath podcast. Today, guys, we're going to talk about something that it's going to come off negative, but it's not. It's just being real in this industry. And that's the pressure, burnout, and longevity in medical sales. So many of you are out there that are either, whether you're in the industry or not, it's most of you that are trying to break in. You're thinking, oh, wow, this is, the greatest, position in the world, the greatest field in the world. You talk to yourself about talking to doctors and being on your own and making a lot of money and getting a company car. And while all those things are true, there is the reality that most of you guys that are in this business now for a while know that that's not the reason that you get into this business. Okay. I'm telling you guys, that's why I want to have this talk and talk about the realities that you're going to face. So again, before we get into that, as always, guys, please make sure you're submitting the questions into the chat. We'll address them about halfway through the show. For all you out there that are still struggling to break in, again, you've been doing this more than 2 months and nothing's changing. You're getting a couple interviews, but really not getting close to an offer. Guys, things aren't going to change. I hate to be doom and gloom. It's real. So most people give up and they wind up getting a B2B job and it's taking a job in another industry because they think it's too hard. It's not. We can help you break in with the RepPath Academy. Click on the link below, reppath.com. You could see the website there where it walks through the companies that we've worked with, and most importantly, the testimonials of candidates that we've helped break into the job of their dreams quickly. So check out that website. Also, if you are interested and you want to speak live, shoot me a message, send me a DM so we can talk live and answer more of your questions about the Academy. Lastly, guys, for any of you that want to see a recording of this podcast or any other episodes, click on the link below to go to my YouTube channel, the RepPath Academy. So you can subscribe. It's 100% free. Ironically, last night, James, I just got a text from someone that just by looking at my podcast, he got a job and broke into medical sales this past week, which was awesome. He actually just reached out to me last night. I never met him before. So guys, listen, again, we could give you the structure. We're going to give you the hands-on with the Academy. We want you to join. But for some of you that could just watch all our podcasts, we still give that kind of value that are actually, it's actionable value that's going to help you get a job in this industry. So check out the YouTube channel. And other than that, let's dive right into today's talk. So again, guys, we're talking about burnout, pressure, and longevity in medical sales. Most of us get into this industry for all the positives, all the pros, okay? Most people don't want to talk about the negatives. Now, while they are true, again, you're going to be talking with doctors. You're going to be in high intellectual conversations about healthcare. So you're affecting patients' lives on a daily basis, whether it's talking about a drug, whether it's a device, a diagnostic test, whatever it is, you're actually affecting a real person's life every day. So that's awesome. You are in the car by yourself majority of the time, whenever you're not with your manager or maybe a home office person is with you, but you're alone by yourself. You're going to have freedom. If you have to go to the cleaners midday or you want to go meet a buddy for lunch, you're going to be able to do that, guys. So you're going to have a lot of freedom. That's true. You're going to make good money. You're going to get either a car allowance or a car. They're going to give you great benefits. All this stuff is true. What I'm here to talk about today are the realities that most people aren't talking about. And again, it's not to scare you, but it's to make you realize that it's not easy. And there are a lot of real challenges, like any good job. Nothing is too good to be true out there, guys. There's always a catch. Okay. So while this is an amazing industry, these are things that you got to think about and help better prepare so you know what you're getting into. And for some of you that are out there, it's to make you realize you're not alone. So let's talk about some of the things that you have to, be cognizant about in this industry. First off, why does burnout happen? Let's just start there. Because you're being pulled in multiple directions as a rep, and you're going to see that. You're going to hear that in interviews. You'll hear reps in the field talk about that all the time. I wear many hats. Okay. there's days you're in an operating room, you're dealing with a doctor. Then you might be dealing with a patient. Then you're dealing with someone, your manager. Then you're dealing with someone from the home office in marketing. You're doing expense reports. You're dealing with hospital staff. You're dealing with administration. Again, these are all different hats. You don't wake up every day and then just go into an operating room, assist a doctor in a case, and then they pay you a commission check at the end of the month. It doesn't work that way, guys. There's so many more things that you have to do. So it makes it very stressful. So just being in an operating room with a patient's life on the table and doctors expecting you to know what you're doing is stressful enough. Now you add in everything else and it gets very, very tough. So here's a list of some of the things that cause burnout with many reps out there. Pressure, you get a quota pressure. Every month, guys, every quarter, you're going to be expected to hit your quota. If you're missing a couple in a row, trust me, they could put you on a plan to potentially not be there in 6 months. Some companies are more lenient than others, but you're expected to hit your quota, and that pressure is real. Case coverage. Times you have multiple cases going on at once, and you can't be there. Okay, you need to get support in those areas. It gets very stressful. Demands from physicians, emergency add-on cases, that happens a lot. That's a good thing, but when it happens, it's stressful because now a second case was added on and it's on the other side of your territory. Now you got to figure out how to get there or how to get support there because that doctor will use somebody else. And you don't ever want to give up a case, to competition. So it gets stressful. Early mornings and late nights, guys, this isn't a 9 to 5. I mean, we're talking today more med device. This is not a 9 to 5 job. Okay. If you need that, I have to be at the gym every day at 3, or I have to do this with the kids every day. Guys, I'm telling you, this is not the job for you because it's very unpredictable. The hospital world, patients are unpredictable. Your life is going to become unpredictable. It's great. It's a lot of fun. But if you're someone that has to have that structure in your personal life every day, trust me, you're going to have to sacrifice. So you're going to be up early a lot of times, home late a lot of times. Travel. I mean, it happens a lot, especially depending on your role, especially if you get into a capital sales role. I mean, I was working, covering half the country for years. Then I was in a national role, again, covering the whole country. That travel wears on you. Okay. You're not going to all the cool cities all the time either, guys. I mean, I remember one time, James, you'll laugh at this. My wife was in Paris and I was in Bangor, Maine. And I sat there like an idiot it took me 11 hours to drive up there because it was in the snow too. It was a nightmare. I had a case the next day and I wound up eating McDonald's on like a dirty Comfort Inn hotel room. My wife sends me a picture. She was at Bridget Bordeaux's old apartment overlooking the Eiffel Tower. And it just, again, it sums up both our lives. She's
the yin and the yang.
Yeah. And I'm the imbecile up in Bangor, Maine, freezing in the snow, all for a case. Again, thank God everything went well, but these are some of the cities, guys, that you might be in. It's not always LA, Dallas, Miami, Chicago. I mean, you could be in some, not so exciting places, the best way to put it. Operating room and lab stress, product emergencies, internal meetings, CRM, admin work, forecasting, manager expectations, patient impact. I mean, the list goes on and on, guys. But these are the things that typically lead to reps getting burned out. So it doesn't come from one bad day. It comes from never fully turning off. And that's what we're going to talk about too later in this podcast. So let's talk about the difference between burnout and pressure. Okay. There is a difference. I'm going to give a couple of examples. Pressure is part of the job, guys. All right. Don't confuse burnout with pressure. You're going to have pressure every day. The closer you get to the end of the quarter, that's when it really builds up. That's not burnout. Okay. So pressure is part of the job. Burnout is what happens when the pressure becomes constant and recovery disappears. All right. So we're going to feel pressure and then things ease up. But when they never ease up and that pressure just gets worse and worse and worse, and it's like you never get a relief, that's when the burnout starts to come in. So give you a couple examples of what pressure sounds like versus burnout. Pressure is, I have a big number to hit. Okay. Burnout, even when I'm not working, I can't relax. Okay. That's not good. You do have to be able to turn it off at some point, guys. Okay. It's different than owning your own business. I own my own business. I never turn off. Never. I mean, that's just part of owning your own business. That's why you'll hear that a lot in medical sales. Treat it like it's your own business. Guys, it's not like your own business. I don't have a choice to not respond to someone. I have to respond. If a problem happens, I have to fix it. Doesn't matter if it's a Sunday night. It's constant. In this job, though, you can turn it off. It is healthy to turn it off. All right. Pressure sounds like this case matters. And burnout, every case feels like a crisis. Okay. And last one, pressure is, I need to perform. Of course. I mean, that's pressure. You always have to perform. Burnout is, I'm exhausted, cynical, and I don't feel like myself. Okay. When it starts to affect you, when you bring it home, that's a sign of burnout's happening. You start taking out on your wife, your kids, you're always irritable, you're always in a bad mood. That's a bad sign. That means burnout is burnout is right around the corner, and you want to nip that in the bud before you get there, guys. So let's talk about one of the things that is very stressful and can lead to burnout, and that's quota stress. So you want to manage the number without becoming the number. Okay. Quotas create urgency, but they could also make reps feel like their identity is tied to a monthly or quarterly performance. And this is true. You're always going to be tied to your quota. All right. You can't go, every rep has the same reaction. Our quotas are too high. The company's out of control. They don't know what the hell they're doing. Guys, very simple. Quit. You can't handle it, quit. They'll find someone else. So I'm not trying to be a hard ass, but it's true. I did it how many times where I would always say, this is ridiculous. We're never going to be able to hit that number. You could bitch all you want, guys. Very rarely does a company readjust those numbers. Now, a company should be doing it right in your defense and not make it so astronomical, because if no one's hitting their number, then obviously that's just, a misfire on the company's part. And that's not going to last anyway. But if other reps are hitting their number and you're not, and you want to talk about how high your number is, it's going to be hard to justify that. So you're always going to be tied to that number. Excuse me. So for many roles, guys, the reason why that's important, you want to hit your quota, not just for the pat on the back and, yeah, I achieved my quota again. Excuse me. Damn. But more importantly, most companies give a hyper bonus. Okay. So if you're getting just for ease, make the numbers easy, 5% commission on everything you sell, then once you hit your quota, you should get, it's called a hyper, where you get, say, 10% of everything above that, or it could be more. That's the real incentive. So you want to hit your quota because that's your goal and you always want to achieve your goals, but there's always more money involved, guys. So there's that incentive to hit it, but you're going to feel that pressure every month. So some of the things you got to realize, guys, we all have bad months. A bad month doesn't make you a bad rep. Okay. We've all been there. It's the consistency. If you're consistently having bad months, then that's a problem. And that's going to lead to that burnout and that stress. And it also, the vice versa, a good month doesn't mean that everything's great. You need to be doing that consistently, because some of us can have a great month because the stars align and then be at 20% to our quota the next 3 months in a row. That's not going to work, guys. You got to consistently be hitting your number and consistently be growing. So here's some good leading indicators that I want you guys to track. Number one, your opportunities. Okay. These are ways to minimize that burnout and get ahead of it. Get ahead of those stressful moments of hitting your number. Guys, you need the qualified opportunities out there. If you only have 1 or 2 physicians that are interested in your product, You have one guy using it, maybe another guy that's debating on doing a trial with you or testing out your product for the first time. Guys, you need a pipeline. So you need to be measuring and be realistic on how strong your pipeline is and the number of opportunities that you have. You also want to make sure that, if you're being measured on the number of trials that you have booked, are they scheduled? Are your cases covered? Are you tracking your meetings with surgeons? Where are you in the value analysis progress? We just had that call on Monday about the VAC committee. So if any of you guys are, don't know what the VAC is, listen to the podcast on Monday. We talk all about that and the challenges of getting products approved. What is your access in new accounts? Are your champions being developed? And lastly, what is your competitive conversions that you're starting? All these things are going to help that if you start tracking and you're on top of that, that's going to help you hit your quota and help you reduce that stress and that burnout. So this next topic is really real, guys. And that's case coverage and the always being on trap. Okay. So case coverage for many reps is where burnout begins, right? So cases could start early, run late, move to different rooms, get canceled or get added last minute. That happens all the time. So you got to be able to adjust quickly. A, you need a good support team too. That's very important, but B, you have to adjust quickly. Okay. Things aren't going to just happen for you guys. When shit goes down, you have to move and you have to be on top of it. But if you have a good support team, you should be able to navigate this, but it's part of the job. Nothing goes smooth quarter after quarter with no problems. There's always changes in the schedule. There's always issues of case coverage. Okay. One side note that just a tip for all you guys out there that in the industry too, you're going to have your big physicians that do, say 3-4 times as many cases as everyone else. And you want to always be there for those cases. Guys, I'm telling you, I've learned this the hard way. Make sure you're getting that physician comfortable with other support members, because what's going to happen is that physician just can't carry you the whole quarter. You're going to need more physicians coming on that are using your product. And especially when you get a new doctor doing his first case, you want to make sure you're there. Make sure that goes smooth. But what happens, Dr. Jones is your big doctor. He's got a case the same day. And now Dr. Jones goes, oh, I don't want Jill or Sarah or Bob, doing this case, Joe. I only work with you. This happens, guys. And they'll threaten to use somebody else. And now you're trapped with that doctor every time. Now it's hard to really grow because now you're sending someone new to cover the case with a new doctor. And that's a recipe for disaster, because that doctor can also say, oh no, I need Joe here. I'm not comfortable with someone new. I need an experienced rep. So make sure you're getting your primary, your big doctors, your key users comfortable with the rest of your team. Bring them into cases, have them support, include them in the dialogue, have them work with that physician with you there first, and then slowly back away, come in when you can. But you don't want to get married to these guys, because I'm telling you guys, it's hard to grow your business because they'll keep wanting you there for every case. So basically we want to talk about, good habits so we can minimize this when it comes to case coverage, and always confirming the cases the day before. Now, of course, you're going to confirm ahead of time too, but make sure cases are still going on, because a lot of times they get canceled the day before, and you could have a rep be going there for no reason when you could be sending them somewhere else. Ask for, the accurate start times. I've had this happen many times. I thought a case was at 1 and it really was at 11. And now the hospital's calling me at 10:30 because I'm not there yet. Horrible, stressful moments. So really double check the start times, and also all the material that will be needed, all the products that would be needed. Excuse me. This happened a lot in spinal cord stimulator cases. Depending on the size of the patient, they can need a longer lead. Now, we usually would go in with the same size leads most of the time. Now you have a really tall patient. the lead isn't going to go down their back. It's not going to be long enough, and there's nothing worse than that. You come in there, you don't have the right equipment. There's different, introducers or different needles sometimes that they need. If you don't come in with that, guys, the case won't go off. That doctor won't use you again. So you need to make sure you have the products lined up. Know which cases truly require coverage too. There's some physicians that you don't have to be there during the case, depending on your product, and they could do the case by themselves. Okay. That's where you want all your doctors to be. Some medical sales roles, you have to be there on every case because the product and the surgery, demands that a rep is there because they have to be there to run a machine or use a certain product. But a lot of times, once the doctor is up and running, you have to know when to, it's like, letting your kids go on their own. Same thing. You need to know when it's time to be like, no, the doctor will be fine today. I have to go elsewhere, because that's how you grow. You need to get them to that point so then you could go out and grow that business. This happens a lot, guys. So that's a great place to be, but you got to know when to say, you know what, I don't have to be there today. I need to go out selling. I need to go out to another case. And along the same token, guys, train staff appropriately so every case doesn't need you there. Communicate early when there is a conflict. Okay. I've had this happen where a doctor was booking a case 2 weeks out, and I let him know, just so you know, I'm going to be on vacation. My CSs aren't going to be around because I know we're crazy that week. A lot of people are away. This happens around the holidays. This can happen during spring break. I mean, you'll see people go on vacation same times a lot, and you could be down a few people. So if you can let them know ahead of time, the doctor might say, all right, you know what? Is the next week better? And they could push it out. That's happened. But always communicate if there's a conflict. Okay. You're going to solve it. You're not saying to cancel the case, but you always want to be, hyper communicative so everyone knows what's going on ahead of time. And and then always at the end, guys, for all these cases, if it was a chaotic case and a lot of shit went down, you always want to debrief, so that you prevent that from happening again. And talk to the physician. You don't want to run out of there and say, oh, that was terrible. That case sucked. Sit there with the physician. Let's talk about it. Because a lot of times, again, things happen. Sometimes your device didn't work as well as it should have. And you could talk about what you could do the next time, as opposed to saying, oh shit, my device sucked today. He's never going to use me again. And then you walk away with your, tail between your legs. No, guys, sit there and have a good debrief with the physician. Things happen. Their doctors are used to it. They're used to navigating problems. Okay. The fact that you're there and you own up to it and you're still going to be supportive and go over and then talk about the solutions moving forward, that's going to help you maintain that business and reduce the stress. So let's move on to the next topic, and that is physicians' demand and boundaries. Guys, this is very, very difficult. This is where I actually struggled. I was that rep that I answered the phone no matter what time, no matter what day. It didn't matter. I answered the phone. Now, I should have, looking back, to make less stress in my life, set some certain boundaries. Okay. It could be as simple as, hey, after 5 o'clock, just text me, unless it's a real emergency. On the weekends, send me a text. Give some limitations, because in spinal cord stim, guys, we had patients that would call us 2, 3 in the morning. And again, I was that rep that would answer the call because I was afraid if I didn't answer the call, that patient's going to tell the doctor, Joe didn't get back to me. And I was always nervous about losing the account. But you got to set boundaries, guys. If you're going to bed, put your phone on silent at 11 o'clock. There's nothing that, if it's that important, that's why emergency rooms are open late night. Okay. So that's very rare that that's going to happen anyway. But the whole point is setting boundaries. So a lot of times these physicians, they may text early, late, the weekends, and then some expect immediate responses. So again, let them know I'm in cases a lot. I'm traveling a lot in the car. You're busy, just like a physician. The physicians, they get it. You think if you call a physician or text a physician, they're not like teenagers that they have their phone on their hip and they're going to answer it. They're in surgeries. They're dealing with patients. They're answering their phone in the surgery. I mean, obviously something's really wrong. They're not going to answer, guys. So you have to realize that you have an important job too, and you need to, service other accounts, and you're dealing with patients' lives and dealing with physicians. You're not going to be able to answer immediately. So sometimes you think getting back to a doctor that second is so key because that's going to help your relationship. It actually can hurt your own health because they're going to expect that immediate response all the time. Just set expectations that if I don't get back to you, I'm not saying don't get back to them in 24 hours, but if it's an hour later after the case, in between cases, that's more than fair, as opposed to being that rep that constantly is always just texting right back or running out of an OR to call a doctor back. Guys, that's no way to live. So again, you need to set this up ahead of time. And then this is very important because there's a very gray area when it comes to urgency and convenience. And that's where you really want to let the doctors know that. Okay. If it's an emergency, they can reach you out after this time. But if it's just to talk about, a potential case coming up in a week, or the doctor read some, new article, or they want to book a speaker program where they want to speak for your company, things that aren't urgent, guys, you need to set those guidelines and what that looks like with the doctors. Right now you're probably saying, Joe, this is a great problem to have doctors wanting your responses right away and reaching out all the time. Yes, it is, but it also can drain the shit out of you. So you need to set the boundaries ahead of time, guys, is the whole point of this. So we talked about travel, scheduling. Let's touch on the emotional pressure of patient care. Okay. So some of you are going to be in medical sales device roles that you're in the operating room, but you really don't have any interaction with the patients. Okay. They're on the table and your product is being used during the case and you're there during the case, but you never speak to them, and there's no patient interaction. And then there's cases, again, like spinal cord stim, where you have a true relationship. They leave with your card. After they get an implant, they're married to you. They can call you whenever they want, because a lot of times you had to do reprogrammings on their system or whatever questions they may have. You have to make yourself accessible. Okay. So you're going to feel this. It's a different level of pressure, guys. This isn't like selling cars or insurance or, payroll or anything else. I mean, again, these are patients' lives. When you're seeing a patient, that's intubated on a table, their body exposed with, the graphic surgeries with, the body parts, open and all this stuff, it's so real, and you feel that pressure. There's times when doctors, your instrument's not working and they're looking at you like, what the hell's going on? And you got to maintain that steady hand and be cool in the procedure. It's stressful as shit, and there's times that you're saying to yourself, I have no idea what's going on. I don't know why my device isn't working, and you want to scream and run out of the room. You got to be cool and calm. Okay. So all this stuff is going to add that extra pressure to you. Because again, you're going to, mistakes matter. It's that real. There's a patient's life on the line. The mistakes matter. So I'm not saying this to scare you guys, because 99.9% of you out there, you're going to do well. You're going to keep working at your craft. The more surgeries you do, the better you get at it. Again, you got a medical support team there. There's many people in the room that are going to minimize anything really going wrong. But you'll have a support staff with your team, with your company. Just keep working at it. You're going to get better and better. And a lot of these things are going to get minimized as you keep, expanding in your career. So like we said, we talked about this too, but I'll touch on it again. So some of the healthy practices that you want to continue to do with your physicians, again, debriefing after difficult cases, not only with the physicians, but also with teammates. Okay. Because there's always reps on your team that have most likely have been through what you went through. and you want to talk to them. You want to talk to your manager. There's always a rep on the team that knows more than the manager. Speak to that individual. Have that debrief to see, okay, well, what happened when that happened to you? What did you do next? What do you suggest? They'll be able to help you guys so you don't continue to make these same mistakes. And then you want to be, again, you want to learn from your mistakes before you spiral out of control and get all this shame. And that's where you start saying, do I really want to keep doing this job? No, guys, again, one bad case, it's not the end of the world. Fix it, figure it out so it doesn't happen again. Keep your clinical competence as high as possible, guys. That's why you constantly are learning. You're going to have new cases, new challenges, always continue to learn. We talk about it every day at the RepPath Academy. Own your own. That means you continue to work on your craft. You don't just wait for the company to say, we have a training next week, or we came out with a new module we want you guys to review. No, you should be doing this on your own. You should be on YouTube multiple nights a week looking at new procedures, looking at what your competition's doing, reading different studies, reading different articles, staying up to date, knowing what your physician preferences are. Before you get into any case, you should be so prepared, like it's any football game, baseball game, anything where you're going up against a competition. You have to take it that seriously, guys, because that's going to make you a better rep and it's going to reduce the stress. When you don't put the prep in, that's where we get stressed out. There is no winging it in this business. Winging it, you're going to fail. Winging it, you're going to quit. You don't wing it. And it's not like all these other medical device reps are so much smarter than you. No, the top reps, they're prepared. The reps that's in the room that's calm and cool and isn't nervous, isn't running around. They're not loud. They're not talking all the time in a nervous tone. They're confident because they've been through this before and they're prepared. So you need to get to that level so you don't continue to have any extra added stress. And then lastly, guys, we'll just touch on how top performers build sustainable outcomes. Okay. And that is, the longevity is not accidental, because top reps build systems. Okay. So they have daily routines. So if a lot of you guys in the interview process, I tell this with my team, all the RepPath Academy members, we go over this question so often that I know they hate when I say it, is walk me through your day. Okay. And I can't tell you how many answers that not only the Academy, but different reps that we train around the country, that they don't have an exact plan all the time. Some do, but most don't. Most will say, well, I wake up every day around like 6:30. I get to my first account around like 8:30. And already I know you're full of shit. Okay. Because a high performer knows exactly, they get up the same time every day. They go for a run. They check emails. They prospect. They have routines. And that daily routine is so powerful for all of you to ask yourself this right now. What is your daily routine? I don't mean, do you go for a 3-mile run every day? No. What is your, from morning to night, what is your day? I know shit always happens that's going to change your day. But ideally, what does that look like? And I will guarantee you the top reps are going to be able to answer that question more efficiently than the middle of the road guys out there. Okay. So they're reviewing the schedule the night before, right? Or the week before. They are ahead of it. They're not the day of going, oh shit, where do I need to be today? Where do we have cases? That's a recipe for disaster. They're always prioritizing their top accounts and cases. They have, for me, I always try to get at least 2 wins every day. It could be a small win, but I actually keep notes and go, what was my win today? And some days I don't hit it, but it doesn't have to be a big thing. It doesn't mean, oh, I got this new account that's a $200,000 a year account. Like, no, I'm talking about small wins, but tracking them. Because for most of you, especially when you're in the field, if you didn't make an impact that day and it's 3:30, 4 o'clock, you're like, shit, man, I don't want to get stuck in the tunnel traffic. I want to get the hell out of the city and get back home so I can go to the gym. force yourself. You didn't get that win yet. So go out there and make one more call. And if you didn't get it then, make another call. Try to get that win before you go home, because I'm telling you, that's going to compile. Those good habits are going to help you be a more high performing rep. Always build in admin time. Okay. Even more important than admin time, family time. Okay. Now I know sometimes you're going to be in cases you can't say, hey doc, it's dinner with the family, I got to get the hell out of here. Of course not. But I'm saying put blocks of time in that, unless it's a case, an emergency, that now you're not doing admin work or something that you could have been doing because you planned your day better, and now it's interrupting dinner time or interrupting family time at night. So family comes first, guys. That's obvious. Sometimes, obviously, cases and stuff interfere, but it shouldn't be the admin. It shouldn't be stuff that you should have been preparing ahead of time that are interfering with that. So the more that you schedule that in, the better and more productive your days are going to be. Respond to messages in batches. Now, I will 100% admit I am not good at this. James, what's the book? Was it 3 Hour Work Week?
4 Hour Work Week by Tim Ferriss.
Yeah, it's Ferriss, right?
Yeah, Tim Ferriss.
Yes, great book, and he talks about that. He talks about responding to emails either early in the morning or midday at 12:30. He doesn't respond throughout the day.
He actually only responds once on Mondays.
Is that what it is? Okay.
Yeah, he literally only responds on Mondays, and he lets everybody know, hey, if you email me, you're not going to get a response till Monday.
Yeah. Now, I'm going to be very straight up. I don't know anyone else in the world that can do that.
Neither do I.
Yeah. So nothing against Tim Ferriss. Great book. Got a lot of good tips. I call bullshit on that one. There's no one else that could say, hey, man, I'm sorry, I only answer back on that's just ridiculous. He didn't build his business that way. There's no way that that's possible. But he does have a point with batching your responses. When you have, say, if you're prospect, put that time block in from 8 to 12. I'm not doing anything else. I'm not getting up from this seat. I'm going to be in the field from this time to this time. And don't waste time, going on checking emails, going on social media, all the bullshit that we waste time. We all do. I'm guilty of it too. And try to block it where you get back to everyone at times throughout the day. You got 10 people to get back to, do it at lunch. Instead of just sporadically interrupting your day is the whole point. It's not easy. Okay. But it is something that will make you more effective. One of the key things, guys, is organization. And most reps, the first thing that a hiring manager or not even a hiring manager, your manager is going to see is your car. Okay. Guys, don't do what many reps do where only when their manager's coming, they go out and get the car cleaned the day before, they organize their trunk, and then normally it's a disaster. Have your shit organized, guys. That's your office. Okay. You're going to have a home office too. But I guarantee you, the more successful reps, they have organized cars. Everything is in the right place. There's not papers thrown everywhere, soda bottles on I saw some disgusting cars, water bottles everywhere, food wrappers. It's disgusting, and it does show a correlation on the organization and how well you're doing as a rep. And a lot of my top performers, their cars, their homes, everything was spotless because they organized that, and they also organized their schedule and their lives. And that's what made them more effective. So your car is one of the first things, but that's also going to be samples, trays, demos, any other materials. And one of the things too, again, that's another good daily routine, you need a short reset at the end of the day. Okay. With yourself, what went wrong, what needs following up, what's happening tomorrow. Be prepared for the next day. You're going to go to sleep, guys. That's why we always hear on a Monday morning, Sunday night, you get the Sunday scaries. You've been out all weekend. You didn't give work a lick of thought until Sunday night at 10 o'clock. And that's where the anxiety kicks in. And that's when you're waking up 1 a.m, 2 a.m. Guys, I'm telling you, when you're prepared and you already thought about what you're doing for the week, you're going to sleep like a baby and you're going to get up Monday energized and kick the shit out of the week. That's where you need to be. So don't take that lightly, guys. Make sure you're organized and on top of all this. But I know I talked way too long, James, and I'm going to shut up now and see if we have any questions.
We got a couple questions there, Joe. It's nice
Is
to hear you.
anybody asking how young I look today, James, or no?
The babyface assassin?
How many questions did we get on how young I look?
None, Joe. We got 0.
Yeah.
We got your face is really shiny in those lights.
I know. Lights are a little bright today. So but I actually thought I'm going to shave. I'm going to look a little younger. I actually look older.
Somehow. Yeah, I think you do. Yeah. I think you somehow do. Big rosy cheeks.
It's terrible.
After your tough workout, your cheeks are looking fatter. I got Cardio Kyle 22. Joe, how do you respond when your manager says take care of yourself and then follows up by booking a ride along the next day?
Yeah, that's a shitty move by the manager. I've had managers do this. Bottom line, when you have good habits and you're always doing the right thing, you're not flying by the seat of your pants, let them do that. That's the way I felt. I hate it when managers did that. A good manager, they should have their schedule planned for the month. If they want you to be prepared and they want you to have an organized schedule, of course you can't throw it in their face, guys, and say that. But some managers might pull this shit. I had a manager, I couldn't stand this person. We did not meet eye to eye. One of the few managers I, again, just did not like. And she would always try to call me the morning of to try to catch me off guard. And it was terrible, but every time I was ready, come meet me here, come there. I got a lunch. I got this, I got that. I didn't care, but I knew what she was doing, which was just awful. But you got to be prepared, guys. And the bottom line is there should be nothing that any manager can do to throw you off, because if you have good habits and you're on top of your schedule, you should be ready for anything. So they shouldn't do that. And you're probably not going to get that too often from most managers, but prepare like a manager will do that to you. Prepare like on a Sunday night, because this is actually a great question, because prepare like your manager is going to call you at 6 a.m. on a Monday morning and say, I'm working with you today. Think like that, guys. If you do, are you really not going to look at anything with your schedule all weekend? Nope. You're going to be on top of your shit. When you know you're working with a manager on a Monday, your Sunday changes. So don't give yourself extra stress. Just get in good habits that it doesn't matter when a manager calls you, you're ready. Believe me, it's a healthier way to live and you're going to be more successful.
I got Macy Mariaki. Joe, is there something that you used to love to do outside of work that the job killed?
Working out, I still always got it in. But that's something, definitely golf. I suck at golf and I don't golf enough. Now I golf a couple times a year. But when I was younger, I wanted to get out to golf more. And in medical device roles, it's very, very hard. Again, it depends on your role, depends on the time you've been in that position. You have a well-oiled machine with teammates that could help you cover cases and all that. That all affects it. But that for me was, I'm not going to be able to make that same boxing class that I wanted to make the same time every week, or whatever other classes were going on, or just being done at a certain time. It's that unpredictability that the cases throw in your life. And working out, that was definitely something, again, some nights, some months I would, put on weight because I just wasn't able to get to the gym as often. But that's probably one of the things that I missed out on. And I always try to get it in, but there were some weeks you just couldn't get there every day. I think for a lot of parents, I don't have children, but people that do have children, that is something that is real, that sucks, is that you're not always going to be able to make your son's game. You're not going to be able to always make whatever practice they have, or, whatever event. Some things you're going to miss. And that's one of the big differences that I've seen with device and pharma. Pharma gets demanding too, but it's not like device. There's very few pharma reps that I know that say, oh, I can never make my son's games because I'm in doctor's offices till 7:00 at night. It never happens. A device rep, they can be in cases late and miss games. I mean, that happens. So you just got to be, again, there's pros and cons with everything you choose in life, and that's one of them that is real.
I got Carbonara. Joe, was there ever a company that you worked for that paid you great money, but there was a moment where you knew you had to leave?
Yes. Again, I'm not going to share names, but there were a lot of outside, the longevity in this role, I know wasn't there. It turned out to be true. And again, nothing against the company. It was just that reimbursements, things that were happening were trending in the wrong direction. I was getting paid well, but that wasn't going to last, and that's what made me leave. So this will happen, guys. Unfortunately, to some of you, a lot, maybe not. I hope not, but it is a reality, especially when you're dealing with reimbursements. Sometimes in the pharmaceutical world, you're dealing with patent life. Sometimes, again, if it's going to expire, you're not going to be able to sell that drug anymore, or you're going to get generic competition. Doctors are going to they're going to just obviously pick the cheaper product that basically does the same thing. So if you don't see that longevity, that long-term plan, that could happen. It happens a lot, unfortunately, with new startup companies, because what startups do, and again, it's very tough. That's why startups are a big risk. It could be big risk, big reward, but a lot of times they fail because they're just, again, they're trying to launch a product they don't have all the budget that a big company does. They don't have all the resources. They put all this money into a new product. They usually entice other reps with a promotable or different title. So you'll see a lot of, sales reps that all of a sudden next month are a vice president and they feel great. And they gave them a big salary increase. Meanwhile, they didn't tell you yet that, well, it's very hard to sell this product. So you're probably not going to make any commissions the first year. Now, all of a sudden that OTE now is basically comparable or less than what you were making. You're a vice president, but you're a vice president of two reports, which is not really a vice president. It's essentially another territory manager with clinical support. But that happens a lot. So the pay could be good for a short period of time, but if the writing's on the wall that this doesn't have any legs to move forward long term, then you might have to look elsewhere.
Sorry, I got muted.
Okay.
I got Lauren Bishop Carrera. Joe, what would you actually say to a surgeon who calls you at 11 p.m. with a non-emergency question?
Yeah, I mean, I think that might not be the moment to have that discussion. Like, hey, doc, moving forward, just so you know, I shut my phone off after this time. I think when you go back in the office, that's a good time because it's a good follow-up. Another reason to get in front of a doctor, because that you could be on the phone for a half hour discussing that at 11 o'clock at night. And I don't want to do that shit at 11. I would go in there the next day or later that week and just be like, hey, just so you know, with certain boundaries, I typically shut my phone off after 10. So if there's anything, if it's an emergency, of course, but anything like we discussed the other night, if you could call me before this time, I appreciate it. That's all. I have kids, or, I go to bed early because I get up early, whatever you want to say, guys. The doctors get it. Again, they have families, they have patients. They wouldn't want patients calling them. I mean, that's why they have answering services. They have, they have other partners that are on call when they're not. So they're not getting these calls interrupting them. So they get it. Don't let them just constantly take advantage of you. And it's not going to give you more business by being the one that always answers late at night to talk about bullshit with the doctor. They'll actually respect the reps more that do give those boundaries. Because again, they give those boundaries to their patients too.
We got Heather Lindquist. Joe, you're a Rangers fan, right?
Yeah, of course I know.
Reminded me of Lundqvist, the king with no crown.
Lundqvist.
The king with no crown. No
Yeah,
championships.
sadly.
Not unlike the goat, Marty Brodeur.
I actually met him a couple of times.
Did you?
Yeah, he's my buddies are a member of one of the golf courses, and very awesome guy, great guy.
Yeah.
So yeah, but I've seen him a few times. He's real nice guy.
Greatest of all time.
Yeah.
And he's a New Jersey Devil, just to emphasize that.
Yes, that's that.
Not a New York Ranger. What's the one thing, Heather Lindquist says, what's the one thing you would change about your first year if you could redo it knowing what you know now?
My first year, I would do a better job with my organization. I flew by the seat of my pants way too much. I just got in my car and went. Again, I had a game plan, but it wasn't planned out, weeks in advance. I focused also on too many, lower volume physicians, where I got excited when doctors would speak to me. And so I would gravitate going back to the same accounts because they were the welcoming accounts. Now there's a reason why they're welcoming, because the busier accounts have more reps going there. They don't have time to see all these reps because they're busier, and they know the reps are going to be coming there because they have more volume. So I spent time in, low volume offices where the doctor would talk to me for 15, 20 minutes because he only saw 5 patients that day. And I felt great going in there. But again, I could have been more effective being in those tougher offices more often to get some of those bigger accounts. So those are the two things that I learned, in my first year that definitely hurt me.
Patrick, for that, we got Islam Khalid. He didn't have a question, but he said, great content, Joe. The insights about quota pressure are gold, and I've been shouting this from the rooftops for ages.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Then we got Patrick O'Sullivan. What's the real difference between burnout from the job and burnout from a bad manager?
That's a great question. Bad managers are real, guys. So you'll be able to tell, when your manager is a pain in the ass, when your manager is making your life a living hell, odds are there's other team members that they're doing it to, that manager is doing it to. You need to know if other people are struggling. I would definitely, you're going to make friends, guys. I'm not saying going back and exposing all the problems you're having with your manager, but you're going to have your friends on the team. You're going to have people that you're talking to. If no one else is experiencing what you're experiencing, odds are managers are tough on you when you're not doing well. Okay. So I would first see, how are you doing? Where's your number at? Because if you're kicking ass and you're hitting your goals, guys, that's when you can be more voiceful with your manager and say, hey, let's have a conversation. Again, you're not going to be nasty. You're not going to be pissed off. It's just be very transparent. And I'm doing well. I'm hitting my number. I feel that I'm growing. Is there something that I'm missing, or something that I may not see because I feel like you're doing X, Y, and Z that I find is counterproductive, and you can, again, be honest, and a lot of times, good managers will appreciate that. And they might tell you, Joe, I don't know what you see, but you're disorganized. Your follow-up is terrible. Your admin is dog shit. Like, they could tell you all this, then fix it. But more often than not, if you're doing well, managers don't want to pick on the people that are doing well. They go after the ones that aren't. And some are bad at this because they think that that's motivating just to be up someone's butt. And it's not. They should be coaching more and help develop. Now, granted, if you're not listening, then it's just, it's not a fit. You're not a fit. It might be time to go. But I would have those conversations first, but make sure that look at yourself before you have that conversation and say, is there something that I could do to improve? Always point at yourself first, guys. Don't have the knee-jerk reaction to say, oh, my manager is being tough on me. You got to man up a little bit and say, no, what am I doing wrong? And then after you do a self-analysis then you can say, hey, listen, I've been crushing my number. My admin's done on time. Everything else is spot on. I got to have a conversation with my manager. And more often than not, guys, that should go well.
Alyssa Reinhold, how do you set boundaries with customers when you're brand new and afraid to say no?
Well, I mean, when you're brand new, you're not going to be worried about boundaries so much, in the first couple of weeks. I mean, I just worry about getting in those accounts, start getting the business. And then as you start developing it, then you could start setting boundaries. So, you don't want to set boundaries from day one. I don't think that's realistic. A lot of people will say, well, yeah, you want to set it right away. Like, guys, you got to start getting your foot in the door first, and then you can work on actually having those boundaries. I mean, you need to get business first. You can't come in there and be like, hey, by the way, doctor, here's my product. But before you even say yes to using it, I don't answer the phone after 5 o'clock. I don't do this. Guys, it's going to come off it's going to come off poorly. So start getting business first, because a lot of times doctors may not cross the line and call you late, and I'm not saying just because a doctor calls you once after work, you got to have a conversation with them and say, hey, I got to set these boundaries. No, but when you start seeing a pattern and it's not important, then you just have a conversation. It doesn't have to be this strict boundary guideline, line in the sand type call. Just get the business first. And then if they're doing things and creating a pattern, then you could start setting those boundaries. But a lot of doctors aren't going to cross that line. So you don't want to come in there demanding that you don't do this, you don't do that, because that's only going to hurt you. Get the business first. I'm sorry if I didn't, explain that correctly earlier on. James?
Muted because I sneezed. Nicole Truesdale, when you were interviewing, did anyone actually warn you about the pressure, or did they only sell the upside?
I think, to be honest with you, they did, but all I wanted to hear was the upside. I mean, I did get warned by different guys that I knew that were in the industry a while. But I was kind of blinded. I was so excited to break in. I didn't care. I really didn't. I got the warnings, and I could talk to you guys till I'm blue in the face. Until you get out there, you don't really know. I could tell you how a doctor can be very stressful in the OR the first time when a doctor screams at you. And you try to visualize what that's like. But when you're there and you see a patient on the table, you see the rest of the staff staring at you and a doctor screaming in your face because you screwed something up, or they're just pissed off that your product didn't work well. Guys, there's nothing that can really prepare you for real life experiences. I guess my message is, that was probably the biggest thing that I just didn't, I was so eager to get in that I didn't care, but I definitely was warned of some of the challenges.
Vince Caparelli, I probably have one, maybe two more. What was the longest you've ever gone without checking your work phone, and how did customers react?
I think it would probably be a weekend, away on a trip, like a Vegas weekend where, we were partying all night.
Joe in Vegas is probably a sight.
Yeah. Well, especially 20 years ago, it was a real sight. But I lost my phone. It was in the room. It fell under the bed, like stupid shit like that. And you didn't care because you're in Vegas and you're having a great time. But that was probably the longest. I was always very, very OCD when it came to that kind of stuff. It didn't happen often for me. But you don't, guys, you don't want to, I mean, and again, we're talking 15, 20 years ago, where you didn't have to get back to someone as quickly as, as much as it's expected today. But we all have our phones on us. I mean, just think about it this way. How long, not even family member or friend, do you not get back to someone? We all get back to someone pretty quickly, so they're going to expect that too. But I wouldn't, it's okay if you don't get back to someone over a weekend. It's the weekend. If it's not anything important or urgent, I don't think that's a big deal. But if someone reaches out to you on a Friday and you're not getting back to them until a Wednesday, that's a problem. That should never happen.
Last one, Kelsey Ledford. How much harder is the schedule going to hit me coming from pharma into device?
It's going to be a big difference. Your schedule is not your own anymore. I mean, that's the big difference. Right now, you're probably only getting those unpredictability in your schedule when your manager's with you. Because let's be real, everyone pulls the same bullshit when their manager. They work, till 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, schedule a dinner with a doctor, do an early breakfast. They really put on a show for their managers. And so that affects their daily schedule, where they might not get to the gym that day. They might not be able to meet their friends at night or dinner with the family. But more often than not, your schedule is really your own in pharma. You're not putting in 50-hour work weeks. I know you're not. People say they are, but I've met few people that I have in that industry, which is a good thing. But in device, there is going to be times that you have a 8 o'clock case in the morning. You're at the hospital at 7, and the case gets delayed. You're still there at 2 o'clock and it doesn't even go off. That's a nightmare, but it happens. Or you have a case at 1 o'clock. It doesn't go off till 7 at night. And you're there till 11, 12 at night. I've been through all of these. So that's the biggest challenge, is you have to realize you're going to get used to it. It doesn't happen all the time. So don't get nervous that it's an everyday thing. But there is unpredictability, and you got to be prepared for that in the device world.
That's it today, Joe. That's all we got.
That's it. Awesome, man. Well, again, James, thank you. A lot of good questions. Again, maybe next time, if my cheeks look fat and the light is too bright, you can tell me that at the beginning of the podcast, not 50 minutes into it, but that's okay. And that I shouldn't shave again because it makes me look older. I mean, these are just, maybe friendly advice before the call, but that's all right.
I didn't tell you to shave. You just decided to do it on your own. Look like a babyface assassin. He's like, let me try to look 20 years younger. Fail. You're
like the guy that tells someone they have a booger hanging out their nose like 2 hours into the night. Like, thank you, Buggy. Thank you. Anyway, but thank you guys again. A lot of good talk, a lot of good questions. Guys, the burnout, all that is real. It can happen. You want to just make sure you're doing the right thing. You're always being prepared, and you'll feel it. You'll know when is this pressure or is this burnout? And if any of you guys have any questions, you're struggling, you want to bounce anything off me, please shoot me a DM or send me an email, joe@reppath.com. If you're struggling to break in, guys, again, RepPath Academy, we say it every week. Go on reppath.com. You could click the link below and we could get you signed up as quickly as possible. Lastly, for all you lobby members, please submit the promo code Licata. Click there on the bottom of the screen. Enter that in when you reach out to me so you can get additional discounts. Other than that, guys, again, it's our last call for the week. We'll be doing these every Monday and Wednesday at 3 p.m. Eastern. So if I don't talk to you, have a great weekend, and I'll see you next week. Take care.